be this evening. You know, that robot talking back to me? I was thinking about actually one of the first times I ever talked to a statewide Democratic audience outside of Indiana was in Kansas for Washington Days. That must have been almost a decade ago when you all invited me over. Nobody had heard of me. I don't know why you invited me, but it was a great time. And I was thinking the last time I was here in an official capacity, it was making sure that the roads and the airports and all the transportation systems of this state got better. I barely made it in today. My first flight was delayed, and then I missed my second flight. And the only way I got another flight was the flight from last night got delayed. It was so late that I was able to hop on it. I thought, that never would have happened when I was in charge. I'm just kidding. It was bad weather. But I will say, you know, I remember being here visiting the construction site of an EV battery factory, standing on the dirt while they were putting the roof overhead. And I just went to look up how that's going, and how that's going is there's about 1,000 manufacturing jobs in Kansas that weren't there before, and there's going to be more where that came from. So I love being here. I love being in a place that takes food as seriously as you do. Had a chance to visit the commercial kitchen at Empower and see what the entrepreneurs are doing there and taste a little bit of what they're up to. I remember, I know we're a little ways from Kansas City, but I remember when I was mayor, they invited me to be a guest judge in a Kansas City Barbecue Society event. And I thought, okay, that's nice, you know, I'll taste something and say, I think this is good. Then they handed me the manual. I have seen federal regulations with less intensity than the judging manual. It had to 3 decimal places the penalty assessed for a pooling or sauce violation. I really knew they meant business when one of the actual judges walked away from the stand and had his KCBS, Kansas City Barbecue Society judge ID number tattooed on his cap. You all mean business. But look, most of all, I love being able to speak with fellow Democrats in a place where people don't always appreciate just how many Democrats there actually are. We get to remind each other that there is no such thing as a permanently red state.
That's right.
Look at your governor. Look at your great leaders. Friends of mine like Sharice Davids. Look at what you all did just a few years ago to make clear in 2022 that this is a state that believes that a woman makes her own health care decisions. It's a message for the whole country. Democrats are the kind of people who understand that the flag and our patriotic allegiance to it are not the property of one political side, that all of us are loyal to the republic for which it stands. That's exactly why we're out here. You're my kind of Democrats who understand that God does not belong to a political party in the United States of America. Nor can I imagine any leader we support telling the Pope what he ought to do on matters of theology. That's crazy. He's been Catholic about as long as I've been middle-aged, and he thinks he can lecture the Pope on Catholic theology. Anyway. One other thing here in the Midwest, I know how it feels to be overlooked by leaders in general, and let's face it, sometimes by national leaders in our own party.
Yes.
I remember when I got to college on the East Coast, because I grew up in a town where they told you that if you wanted to be something, you had to leave. And as soon as I got there, that's when I realized for the first time how Midwestern I actually was. I began to feel this kind of defiant pride in where I came from. Especially when a well-meaning friend told me she could never keep straight whether it was Idaho or Indiana that I was from. realized I was from here, because out here in flyover country, we know how to do politics the right way, a different way. We know how to stick to our guns because we're sometimes in the minority. We also know how to disagree without being jerks about it. We know that the measure of a leader or a policy isn't whether they conform to some ideological test. It's whether what they're doing actually works or whether it doesn't work. Right now, in too many parts of the national leadership of this country, things don't work. To put it mildly. I could give a whole speech, maybe 10, about everything that's wrong right now with the country and the people running it. I could talk about the insult to freedom that comes from federal troops roving around American cities, demanding people show their papers while refusing to show their own faces. Putting people into detention over an op-ed they wrote, shooting American demonstrators, and then getting caught lying about what happened. These aren't things that just ought to worry people who are left of center. They ought to outrage every American left, right, and center alike. I can talk about the corruption that we're facing right now. A first family that has made billions of dollars off the presidency. Making this into a country where your ability to get your way in Washington has to do with whether you can afford the entry fee for a club, literally a billionaire's club owned personally by the president, where it costs $1 million just to get in. Or write a big check for a gilded ballroom being built for elegant dinner parties for those same millionaires. I could talk about that all night. Or I could talk all night about the madness of going into a new war in the Middle East that we didn't have to be in. The way that makes me feel as somebody who remembers what it was like stepping onto a C-17 with a bunch of my friends and a one-way ticket to a war zone, praying that the people who sent us there knew what they were doing. I could talk about personnel, what it means for our health secretary not to believe in modern medicine, or an education secretary committed to eliminating the Department of Education, or my successor in charge of regulating airlines being a former airline industry lobbyist, a senior official at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which sounds pretty important, claiming that he was once teleported to a Waffle House. Not making that up. Or just yesterday, the Secretary of the Treasury being asked about why people don't feel so good about our economy, and saying, well, in their heart of hearts, they feel good. They just won't say so. Okay. I could talk about the explosion of inequality in this country, the levels we haven't seen in more than a century, and about how much damage that's doing. I could talk about inflation, higher today than on this president's first day, even though the number one promise was to cut prices. About the $1,000 on average that an American family is paying in tariffs right now. About gas prices up, power bills up, mortgage rates up, and the economy slowing down. We could talk all day and all night about what's wrong, but I'd rather focus on something different. And that's how much better things could be. If there's one thing I want you to walk out of here remembering, it's that it doesn't have to be this way. It could be so much better. And if there's a second thing I want you to leave remembering, it's that you've got more power than they want you to think. So picture something with me. Picture the first day that the sun comes up over Kansas after the current president has left the political scene for good. And that That day will come. But what I really want us thinking about is, then what? We're here to work toward what happens next. It's not just wanting to bring that day about, it's being ready for what to do the next day and the next day and the next day. It's about focusing on what we could have, what we're missing out on now, and could have if we work to build a better everyday life. That's why I'm here, to point out those things and to remind you that you're not alone in wanting them. You're not alone if you think that health care ought to be a right for every single American. Not just expanding Medicaid, but finishing the job of setting up true universal health care for every single person in this country. With all the technological change in the air, you're not alone if you insist that leaders make our economy one where one job is enough. And one where when a new technology like artificial intelligence comes along, that it has to be designed and, if necessary, regulated so that the result is a shorter work week and more money in your pocket, not an even higher concentration of wealth and power in this country than we've already got. You're not alone if you believe that the wealthiest country on earth ought to have the best fully funded public schools on earth. You're not alone if you refuse to be told that we couldn't possibly afford nice things like good schools and good roads and good rural hospitals, while the wealthiest people in America pay a lower tax rate than the teachers in those schools, the workers on those roads, and the nurses in those hospitals. Of course we can have nice things in this country. You're not alone if you demand that people in public office put their own self-interest aside and serve with integrity. Leaders shouldn't even have the appearance of a conflict of interest, let alone trade stocks while they're in office or take crypto investments and jumbo bets from the foreign government. You're not alone if you believe that money in politics has gone way too far. That it needs to be reined in before our whole democracy is bought and paid for. And if that takes a constitutional amendment after Citizens United, then let's have a constitutional amendment and get it done. You're not alone if you believe in a country where people can live a life of their choosing and where no one faces mistreatment because of who they are or who they love. You're not alone if you believe these things. And it gets better. Not only are you not alone, you're part of an American majority when you believe these things. Not only are you part of a majority, you're part of an American supermajority that believes all of those things that I just said. See, the people in charge right now want you to believe two big things that just aren't so. The first is that you are the only one who thinks the way that you do. So look around. Look at this room with hundreds of people who feel the same way. And don't just look around this room, look around this country where millions of Americans have taken to the streets and where tens of millions of Americans are getting ready to vote for all of those things that I just talked about and more. Including a lot of our friends and neighbors who usually vote the other way.
That's right. That's
But
right.
they're curious, or they're angry, or they're upset, or they're disappointed. And our message to them is, he doesn't deserve you.
That's right.
Our message to them isn't what took you so long. It's welcome aboard. I'm glad to be side by side. Now, the second thing they want you to believe that just isn't so is that you have no power. That you're facing a steamroller, that the unpopular agenda of today's Republican Party is just something you've got to accept. So I'm here to remind you that you are so much more powerful than they want you to think. And there's example after example of it. I've seen it across the country. When people stand up and speak up, change happens. When our leaders aren't getting it done, we can change our leaders. And before that even happens, we can even change the behavior of the leaders we've got. I mean, look at how back in Indiana, State House Republicans defied the personal pressure of the President of the United States after they saw how many citizens were rallying against his gerrymandering plan. And they decided they'd rather be on the wrong side of the President than be on the wrong side of the people of their state. Look at the Washington Republicans who changed their votes on the Affordable Care Act funding after they got an earful from their constituents back home in those town halls. Those few who were willing to do the town halls. There's one of them who wouldn't do a town hall, so we went into his district and said, fine, we'll do one for you.
Right.
And a few days before we showed up, he miraculously changed his vote on the Affordable Care Act. Even the president himself, who swears he never backs down, has backed down on tariffs, he's backed down on ICE, he's backed down on the Epstein files because enough people spoke up that he had no choice. But, I mean, as excited as I am about the impact we can sometimes have before Election Day, what should really energize us is what can happen on Election Day. And you showed it. You showed it in 2022. You showed it again and again. You showed it when you demonstrate that you understand that we should never get caught treating the presidency like the only office that matters. Because so much depends on the decisions that are made up and down the ballot. And I want you to remember that when you step up, when you take action, you don't just generate votes, you generate hope. Hope is something I once heard someone say is the consequence of action more often than the cause of action. You take action, and people from your own neighbors to people thousands of miles away notice, and they draw hope to do even more. That's what we're here to make sure happens. But a lot is being asked of you, and I know that's true. You shared your time this evening. You shared your treasure, contributing to the party as part of this event. And there's going to be more Friday nights and weeknights and weekends asked of you to be knocking on doors, talking to neighbors, digging deep, bringing people in, bringing more voters, bringing more volunteers, bringing just a couple of those cranky uncles over to our side who might finally be ready to change their minds. And when you have one of those long nights and when you're asking yourself, can I really do any more than I've already done? I want you to reach into whatever is your personal why. And it's yours, not mine, so I don't know what it is for you. For me, the reason I make sure to hit the road and be with you on a night like this is actually, ironically, the very same thing that makes it a little bit harder than it used to be for me to do that. See, when I woke up this morning before I headed to the airport, about 6:30 this morning, as usually happens, my first interaction was with a 4-year-old boy. And I'm putting out the cereal for him and his sister. He says, Papa, can I come with you on this trip? I said, well, I don't think it'll work out. I got to go to Kansas, and you got to go to preschool. And then he walks up to me with a Sonic the Hedgehog walkie-talkie. He tells me to put it in my briefcase. He says, take this with you. That way we can talk to each other. I wasn't sure whether I should explain how range works on walkie-talkies. Just gave him a big hug instead. But what I know is that it won't be so long before he and his sister, who right now are asking me questions I can handle. Like the other day I got, Papa, is a grapefruit bigger than a pineapple? I can handle that. But what am I going to do when they say, Papa, back in the 2020s, did you do enough? They're going to ask that, and I want to make sure we have a very good answer by the time they're old enough to ask that question. Things were kind of rough back in the 2020s. I'll tell you, they were. You didn't see it back then, but things got pretty rough for this country. Things that were going wrong, and things that have been going wrong for some time. But the reason that things are so much better for you now is you're getting ready to start a career, is you're getting ready to start a family. Because, believe it or not, there was a time when people in this country, sounds barbaric, but they used to go bankrupt over health care bills. There was a time when people were choosing whether they could pay their health insurance or their mortgage. There was a time when we didn't, back in the 2020s, properly fund our public schools. There was a time when some of the richest people in America, back in the 2020s, paid less in taxes than a firefighter. And we got together and we changed that. And that's why you live in a country that's so much better than the one that was handed to you. Wouldn't you like to be part of that? Isn't that worth a Friday night and a Saturday morning and a few text messages and a few awkward conversations with that uncle? Are you ready to make sure we have that answer? Are you ready to send a message around the country and around the world with the work we put in over the next 7 months? If you do that, we can't lose, and we'll be so proud one day of what we did back in the 2020s. So let's make it happen.